Well, the Matildas are heading off to play two matches in Europe against Switzerland and Germany under new coach, interim coach, Tom Sermanni, who's not that new as it happens. He was coach of the Matildas back in the 1990s. He's also got an impressive record and he's been put in place to basically find a new balance for this team. He's named a team full of experience with some new guns as well coming in to try and make that transition as teams do change and morph as time goes on. But I caught up with Tom a little earlier. Well, Tom, I was thinking about this before we started our chat. I think it was 30 years ago we probably had a similar chat when you were coach of the Matildas. What's changed in that time?
Oh, there's been dramatic changes in that time. Obviously, when you actually think back to that time 30 years ago, the big step forward for the Matildas was the first time they didn't actually have to pay money to play for their country. They didn't have to pay their way to international tournaments. And then you look at where they've come in those days to where they are now. It's just you couldn't have, if you put it in a movie, you just wouldn't believe it.
You made an interesting point in the press conference talking about this team that you've selected for two international games that are coming up, friendlies. And the thing that struck me was you want to take it back to football basics, your football philosophy. What is your football philosophy? What does that mean?
It's probably a few things. I think the key thing, and I think having been involved with the Matildas journey for a lot of years, is that one of the key things now is that we want the Matildas to be a winning team. And that's not just now, that's been for several years. And it's important to have that mindset when we go into games. Now, in saying that mindset is obviously there, but then it's putting the necessary bits together to actually make it happen. And for me, that's a combination, as I say, of playing the type of free-flowing, if you like, open, attacking kind of football that wins you games. But that only sort of goes part of the way to win games. The other part that helps you win the games, and we go back to the mantra of the Matildas, which is never say die Matildas, is that aspect as well. And that's the grit, the determination, the fight, if you like. I know it's not a popular word to talk about that because everybody wants to play this wonderful football, and we do, but we also need that other side that gets you over the line and wins these sort of critical games, because every games now in international football is difficult, and particularly when you're playing European teams.
So how much in your mind, and the history that you've had in coaching football teams, how much of it is actually coaching the players to play football? How much of it is man or woman management and getting, that cohesion in the team, but also the free-flowing, as you say, to let different personalities shine in different ways?
I think it's a balance of both. I think it's a combination of trusting your players. It's a combination of getting your tactics right. It's a combination of giving the players a degree of freedom, but also within that a degree of structure. So it's a whole picture of all of that. If you become too structured, too regimented, too military-like, you lose a lot of flair, for want of a better word. If you're too loose, then you lose some discipline. So it's getting the balance right between giving certain players a certain amount of freedom, controlling other players, and then within that making the team work efficiently and effectively.
And also, everything moves. Players age, new ones come through. You've picked a few newcomers. There's a lot of experience there as well. But if you talk about somebody like a Mary Fowler, that a lot of people have predicted are going to be a superstar soon-ish, but how you get the best out of her. Do you think we've seen the best out of her yet? And is there a reason, if not, why we haven't?
No, I think she's got a lot more growth. But part of the reason of that is she's a very young player. She's fairly new. It takes you a lot of years, as you know, in most businesses, most places of work. It takes you a lot of years to get that skill set up where you become either the accomplished player or the accomplished musician or whatever. It doesn't happen overnight. And but these days I think people rush people and they expect everything's expected yesterday. So I think with Mary it's a continued it's a continual growing. She's got all the tools to be an outstanding player. She is an outstanding player, but it's taking that time then to go from there to becoming, hopefully a superstar. And Sam Kerr's a great example of that. Sam Kerr took a lot of years, a lot of different directions to become the accomplished player that she is today.
Do you feel like the master coach now? You're back in this job. Here you are. I mentioned, you've got the word interim in front.
Yes.
Do you want it full time?
No, I'm quite happy with that word interim in front. And no, I don't see myself as a master coach. I just see myself as somebody hopefully that's going to be able to go in and get things settled down, get the team away from all the noise and the distractions and get things back on track.
Yeah, I'll finish on that because just before I came here, I was having a chat with Nina Kennedy, who was the Australian pole vaulter that won a gold medal in Paris, just a phenomenal athlete. Yeah. And she went through all sorts of ups and downs in the lead up to that and a lot of personal growth. And she was saying one of the biggest things she's learnt is that the outside noise is outside noise. And you've got to be really strong in yourself to know that you can choose to ignore that. Yeah. And the only opinions that really count are the opinions of those closest to you and who have your best interests at heart. Is that part of the challenge of the world today, the social media world we live in?
Very much so. It's part of the challenge, and it's even more so with the Matildas today because, as I say, they have become this phenomenon that I've never seen any other Australian team have the support that they've got. So to go from women's football a few years ago when you basically didn't get an awful lot, weren't recognised, didn't get any of this publicity, to turn that a complete 360 to get what they're getting is not easy to then cope with. It's another huge distraction for players and for young people and for young people who are trying to make their way in a profession and who have got all the anxieties that young people have. So you've got a whole combination of those things that have an impact on performance. And I think one of my jobs as a coach, probably perhaps even the most important job, is to try and help the players deal with that, cope with that, but not let it impact what happens on the football field. Because what happens on the football field is actually what defines you as an athlete and what defines our team.
Sometimes it's great being old and being experienced, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't have so many anxieties.
All the very best, Tom. Thank you
very much. Thanks,
you.
Tracy.